Time is X minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hi, with this video I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Minolta SR7. It's a 35mm SLR made by Minolta in the 1960s. It's very early. It's so old that it doesn't use through-the-lens metering, and it also has a cold shoe, not a hot shoe, which is something that will explain what the difference is in another video. This camera also uses a metering system that's not through the lens. It has a little eye right here, and this will basically give you an exposure reading that does not use the lens to help determine exposure. That has some disadvantages, and that's why the through the lens metering became a standard soon after this was made. It has a rather funky metering system altogether. So here we go. So 35mm SLR specs, it goes from, it has bulb in 1 second up to 1,000th of a second. You can see on the knob here that there's the flash sync is the X here. It's in between a 30th and a 60th. I'm presuming that's a 45th. That's a little bit unusual. It's very slow as well by modern standards. It has some fairly high-end features. There's one interesting thing that this camera is capable of that many cameras before and after are not, and I think this was to serve a specific lens that at the time was very revolutionary, an ultra-wide lens, when ultra-wide lenses for small format were uncommon. And so there is, I'm going to take the lens off. So to take the lens off here, we'll press this button right here down and turn, that's counterclockwise. So the feature I'm referring to is it has a mirror lockup. And you can see no mirror in the mirror box now. It's kind of it's a mirrorless of sorts. Okay, and then how you get that back? Good question. There we go. Okay, put the lens back on. Red dot to red dot to put the lens back on. So red dot on the camera, red dot on the lens. And what else? Okay, so this is a self-timer. For this to work, you need to pull this knob all the way down so it's horizontal, and then I believe you push this little button towards the lens, and then you get about 10 seconds and the camera will hopefully expose. Oh, it wasn't wound, so that'll stop it. There we go. So that is how one would do a selfie back in the 60s. Very primitive. So I mentioned that this camera does not have a hot shoe. This is a cold shoe. What that really means is basically that the only thing that this shoe serves is to set a flash on it. There's no communication between the camera and the flash. So you'll see there's no little dot where the electronics connect with the flash here. It's just simply a holder. And then what you do is you'd have an old school flash that has a PC sync cord, and it would go in here. And then this camera is so old also it has the X sync, which is for flash bulbs, like the old magnesium type that go poof and then get hot. There's a dumb ISO to DIN converter on the back too. It doesn't do anything other than just show you what the numbers are. So you can just, if you bought a roll of, let's see, I have a roll as an example. This is Orvo NP22, and it's 22 DIN. And they of course put the numbers on it now, but there presumably was a time when that was not true. 22 DIN equals ASA 100. I'll do a video on that at some point. But the German films at some point were only measured in DIN, and American films in ASA, which is now the same as ISO. Okay, I'm going to show you how to load this camera. First off, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put the to make sure that there's no film in the camera right now. So if you spin the rewind knob in the direction of the arrow, so that's clockwise, and if you feel no resistance, there's no film in there. And then it is safe to open up the back of the camera. With this camera, like most cameras in this vintage, to open up the camera, you pull up on the rewind knob, as you can see here, and you just pull and the back will just spring open. Especially if I don't have my finger over the back when I do that. It's a little awkward trying to do this in a video. Okay, so here we see the interior of the camera, and we're going to just put a roll in here just to show you how the camera would be loaded. Okay, so I have a test roll of film. This film is actually Super Double X, 20 exposures. It's very vintage. It's probably in the right time frame to match the camera. This is a test roll, so it's been through a bunch of cameras. That's why it's sort of bending the other direction, and the tongue is all bent up and everything, but it'll be great for showing you how to load film in any case. So I have a film cassette, tongue's out, as it would normally be. You might have to lift up the rewind knob a little bit to get the cassette in. So we're going to just do that and just let the cassette fall in. There we go. And then we're going to push the rewind knob in and then gently push and then turn just to make sure it meshes up with the gears. So you can tell, as long as this area is flush right here, you're good to go there in that area. So we're going to pull the tongue out just a little bit just to get it far enough so that we can put it in the take-up spool here. With this camera, it's not super easy to see because everything's black inside, which for film makes sense, like just the insides being black just so you don't have any light bouncing around. But in here is a little black piece of metal around the take-up spool. And what we're going to do is take the tongue and just take the short end here and just we're going to stick it underneath the little metal bit there. See, we're going to push it a little further gently, and we're going to be careful not to touch the shutter, so don't push this part down too hard. So we have the end of the tongue going through the little metal bit here on the take-up spool. You can also see the sprocket is lined up here with the gearing. So what we're going to do is we're going to wind the film forward a little bit, and we're going to take a photo, and once the film reaches around, oops, see, it came loose, so that was a failure there. I'm going to rewind this a little bit and try again. Okay, so in order to rewind, just so the gearing works properly, you press this button, and once you wind forward, this button will snap back into place. All right, so let's try this again. This position is a bit awkward. I'm pretty good at this, but just trying to take it to load the film in this position while trying to do a video is not normally how one loads a camera. Okay, so I'm going to push this in a little bit further. There we go. Make sure the sprockets line up handily. So it's important also to just that the film be pushed up against the bottom of the take-up spool, and as noted earlier, that the gearing and the sprockets line up. Okay, so let's try this again. Wind forward. I think this time it's going to catch. We just want to make sure when we do this that the film just winds upon itself, and then you're pretty much certain that the loading is fine. Close the back. It's possible sometimes you might need to make a little adjustment just to push this in a little bit, and if in some cases it could be that the film's sticking out quite a bit like that, you'll just want to just wind it so it's pretty taut. Not too don't go too far with that. Okay, so we're going to close the back, and just for a moment we're going to leave the rewind knob on here. So I'm going to show you another tip or trick here. So we are going to the counter's on start right now, and we're just going to wind until we hit the 1 on the counter. And while we do that, when we wind the advance lever, if your film is loaded properly and at this stage I'd make sure that the rewind is just slightly taut, which it is now. If everything's working fine, you'll always see the rewind knob on a camera like this moving around as you advance the film, just like that. Okay, so that at this stage I'm going to put the knob bit down there and then wind forward, still moving, great, and we're at 1, so we're ready to take photos. So in order to show you how to rewind, I'm going to shoot every frame on the roll here. It may be shy of the 20 that was stated on the cassette because this test roll has been cut a few times. So we're just moving along here. This will be completely blank. I have a lens cap on the front of the lens. This is just a demo. Don't do this at home, kids. So we're moving right along. And one thing I could show you soon is like how to know when you've hit the end of the roll on a mechanical camera like this. So we're starting to feel a little resistance. Oh, okay, yeah. So we've hit the end of the roll. There's enough resistance. You don't want to pull too hard on the take-up knob here. And if so, once you start getting some resistance, it's time to stop. And when that happens, we're going to go press in this button here, pull out this little extension on the rewind knob, and just turn until you'll hear a click when the film's gone in to the cassette. And also I'm very experienced at this, so I know where the film is. You might want to just keep going and wind until you hear the click, and then wind 3 times or something, just so the film goes back into the cassette, so you're completely safe. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to open the camera up now, and what we're going to see is there's the film cassette, and we're going to see the advanced take-up spool is going to have the tongue is going to be right there, and it'll be basically right where we started when we loaded the camera, except right before we wound the film around itself. So it'll just be basically just sticking out right here. You heard the sound too. So it released the tension of the film, just relaxed in its tension from the inside of the cassette. Open up the back. And there we go. As stated, perfect. I personally, if you're good at this and you develop your own film, this is a good way to wind to empty out your camera. So you have the tongue still out, and what I typically do is take the film out and you can write notes on the tongue. Just for one, you want to make sure you don't double expose the film, but you can write notes on here, and it's also easier. You can start to load your film on the reel if you develop your own film, so that's another handy thing. So that was basically the demo. Thanks for watching. Oh, and by the way, you can find a manual on our Photoscholar site that you can download, a PDF manual for this camera and others. And we would really like to hear your questions. So if you want Alice or me to answer any questions, please mention it in the comments section here on YouTube or on our website on photoscholars.com.